In a dimly lit warehouse on the edge of the city, dust floated lazily in the air, disturbed only by the sound of boots scuffing against the concrete floor. A battered wooden table sat in the center, covered in maps, blueprints, and faded photographs. Around it stood 5 men, their faces lined with years of war and sacrifice. Kane, their leader, leaned forward, his rough hands pressing hard on the map as if to keep the weight of the world from slipping away. His eyes burned with determination. "They've got him locked up in Vasquez's compound," he said, his voice low but steady. "No government, no agency is willing to touch this. Too risky, too political, but we don't leave our own behind." The room fell silent. The men exchanged uneasy glances. They all knew Vasquez's reputation: merciless, unpredictable, and heavily guarded. A mission like this wasn't just dangerous, it was suicidal. One of them, Torres, finally broke the silence. "So what's the play, Kane? Walk into hell and hope we come out alive?" Kane's jaw tightened, but he didn't waver. "We've walked through hell before. The only difference this time is we're walking in together, and we're walking out with him. Alive." For a moment, doubt lingered in the air. Then, slowly, one by one, the men nodded. No more words were needed. The mission was decided. The following day, the team split up across the city, each with a task to bring someone vital into the fold. Kane knew that brute force wouldn't be enough. This mission demanded precision, and for that, every man and woman had to be the best at what they did. Torres tracked down Riley, a wiry tech genius who had long ago sworn off dangerous jobs. They found him hunched over a cluttered workbench, repairing a drone with trembling hands stained from too much coffee and too many sleepless nights. "I said I was done with this," Riley muttered, not even looking up. Torres placed a photo of the hostage on the table. Riley froze. His eyes softened for just a moment, then he sighed, shoulders sagging under the weight of guilt and memory. "Damn it, Torres," he whispered. "All right, I'm in." Meanwhile, Kane himself went to recruit Sasha, a demolition expert with a reputation for being unpredictable but brilliant. She was in the middle of a bare-knuckle fight in a grimy back alley ring when Kane arrived. Bloodied but smiling, she accepted his offer without hesitation. "You had me at explosions," she joked, wiping blood from her lip. By nightfall, the team gathered again in the warehouse. Riley set up surveillance feeds, Sasha laid out a small arsenal of explosives, and the sniper, Holt, silently checked his rifle from the shadows. The room buzzed with tension and anticipation. Kane studied each of them, his chest heavy with both pride and worry. They weren't just soldiers or specialists, they were family. And family meant no one was left behind. Night fell heavy over the enemy compound, its towering walls lit by the sweep of searchlights and the occasional bark of a guard's radio. The team crouched low in the brush just beyond the perimeter, their black gear blending into the shadows. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown. Riley whispered into his headset, his fingers flying across the keyboard of a rugged laptop balanced on his knees. "Camera loops engaged. You've got a 5-minute window before the system resets." Kane raised 2 fingers, signaling the team forward. They moved like ghosts, silent, precise, deadly. Holt took point, his sniper rifle slung across his back as he disabled a patrolling guard with the swift crack of his elbow. The body was dragged into the shadows, unseen. Inside the compound, the silence was suffocating. The halls were dim, lined with flickering bulbs and the faint hum of generators. Sasha planted small charges at key choke points, her grin widening each time the detonator clicked into place. Torres swept the corners, weapon steady, muttering under his breath, "Too easy, way too easy." They reached the holding cells faster than expected, only to find them empty. The steel doors hung open, chains scattered on the floor. Riley's voice came through the earpiece, urgent and strained. "Kane." The feed shows movement deeper inside the compound. They moved him. Before Kane could reply, a piercing siren shattered the night. Red warning lights bathed the hallways in a hellish glow. The compound came alive with shouting guards, boots pounding against metal floors. Kane clenched his jaw, gripping his rifle tighter. The window was closing, but retreat wasn't an option. They had come too far. Gunfire ripped through the corridors, echoing off the steel walls as the team pressed forward. Sparks burst from the ceiling when bullets struck overhead pipes, showering them with hot steam. Kane barked orders over the chaos, his voice steady, refusing to let fear take hold. "Left flank, Torres, cover Holt. Sasha, blow the stairwell." Sasha slammed a charge into place and detonated it, the explosion shaking the ground as smoke and debris filled the hall. It bought them a few seconds, enough to push deeper into the compound. They reached the inner chamber, where the hostage was supposed to be held. The heavy reinforced doors stood before them. Riley rushed forward, pulling tools from his pack. His hands moved fast, too fast, unlocking seals he shouldn't have been able to crack so easily. Kane narrowed his eyes. How the hell do you know this lock? Riley froze, his back still turned. For a heartbeat, the air grew thick with silence, broken only by the distant shouts of approaching guards. Slowly, Riley stood, dropping the tools from his hands. Because, he said quietly, I wasn't sent here to save him. I was sent here to make sure you never walk out. Before anyone could react, Riley spun, pulling a pistol from his vest. His shot rang out, grazing Kane across the shoulder and sending him crashing against the wall. The betrayal struck harder than the bullet. Holt roared in fury and opened fire, but Riley ducked behind the steel door, vanishing into the chaos. Kane clutched his bleeding shoulder, gritting his teeth. The room spun, but he forced himself upright. Torres rushed to his side, shouting, "Boss, we need to move, now." He sold us out. Kane's eyes burned with fury, but his voice was steady. Then we finish this without him. The alarms wailed louder, and the compound closed in. The mission had just turned into a war. Smoke hung heavy in the air as the team staggered into a half-ruined storage bay, the sound of boots and gunfire chasing them down every corridor. Kane leaned against a steel beam, his shoulder drenched in blood, his breathing ragged. For a moment, it looked as though he might collapse. Torres tore a strip of cloth from his sleeve and bound Kane's wound tight. "You're losing too much blood," he muttered. "We need to get you out." Kane's jaw tightened, his eyes flashing with stubborn fire. "We don't leave without him. Not after all this. Not after Riley's betrayal." The others exchanged grim looks. Holt checked his rifle, his hands steady despite the chaos. Sasha crouched nearby, wiring explosives with quick precision, her face streaked with soot but her grin unbroken. "We'll give him hell, Kane. Just point me where you want the fireworks." Through the distant walls came a faint, muffled cry. The hostage, weak, desperate, but alive. The sound froze the team in their tracks and then reignited something deep inside them. All the pain, all the blood, all the betrayal, it meant nothing compared to that voice. Kane pushed off the beam, teeth clenched as he forced himself to stand tall. "There. That's our way. We're not done yet." They moved together, tighter than before, every step fueled by something greater than survival. They weren't soldiers chasing glory. They were a family pulling one of their own back from the abyss. As they advanced, the compound seemed to roar back to life around them, guards flooding the halls, red lights pulsing like a heartbeat, the very walls closing in. But the team's resolve had sharpened into steel. Nothing, no betrayal, no wound, no army, was going to stop them now. The compound shook as Sasha's charges detonated in a thunderous chain reaction, fire blooming in the hallways and swallowing squads of guards in an inferno of steel and smoke. The team surged forward through the chaos, Holt sniping targets with surgical precision while Torres covered their flank with relentless bursts of gunfire. At the center of it all was Kane, wounded but unyielding, driving his people forward. Every step sent agony lancing through his shoulder, but he ignored it, his eyes locked on the sound of the hostages' cries. They finally burst into a fortified chamber, where the hostage was chained to a steel chair, battered but alive. Two guards raised their rifles, but Holt dropped them both with two clean shots before they could even pull the trigger. Torres rushed to free the hostage, his hands trembling with urgency. "Stay with us," Kane urged, crouching low despite his wound. "We've got you. You're going home." But their escape wasn't free. Through the smoke, Vasquez's reinforcements stormed the chamber, a wall of black armor and automatic rifles. The room exploded into chaos, gunfire shredding the walls. The team fought like cornered lions, each one knowing this was the last stand. Sasha hurled her final charge toward the entrance. "Time to end this," she shouted, slamming her thumb on the detonator. The blast tore the gateway apart, but more soldiers kept coming, shadows moving through the flames. Kane glanced at his team, Holt steady at his rifle, Torres shielding the hostage, Sasha bloodied but smiling through grit. He knew someone had to hold the line. "You get them out," Kane ordered, voice hoarse but unbreakable. Torres shook his head, fury in his eyes. "Don't you dare. That's an order," Kane barked, louder than the gunfire. His gaze softened for just a second. "Family comes first. Go." Before they could protest again, Kane turned, unleashing a hail of fire at the advancing soldiers. His body was a wall, his will an iron shield. Every second he bought was another step closer to freedom for the others. The last thing the team saw before they dragged the hostage through the smoke was Kane, standing tall in the blaze, firing until the flames consumed him. Outside, under the cold night sky, the survivors collapsed in the dirt, gasping for air. The compound burned behind them, an inferno swallowing the sins of betrayal and war. They had completed the mission, but the price they paid would never leave them. Kane was gone, yet his voice lingered in their hearts, "We don't leave our own behind." And because of him, they never would.